Welcome to another episode of Axe of the Blood God, an independent RPG podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. Joining me once again, the whole crew is back together. It's Nadia Oxford.
Yes, Kat. Where were you when the world ended on Monday with the eclipse?
Out getting cigarettes.
Clearly, we know that much.
No, I was sitting on my patio and we got to see a partial eclipse and it was actually pretty dope. How about you?
I was actually in Milwaukee. I was coming home from a Midwest Gaming Classic, and Toronto is really funny. It's like just outside the path of totality, like to the point that Hamilton, a city like very slightly to the southwest of us, got in the path of totality, but it was apparently overcast anyway, so what the hell?
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, a lot of places were overcast, which
Yeah.
I heard my friends went up to upstate New York and they said that it was cloudy and then not cloudy and then cloudy and then not cloudy. So every time the eclipse would appear, everybody would go, woo! And then the clouds would cover it up and they go,
Oh,
oh.
I think The Simpsons.
Also joining me is my other beloved co-host. It's Eric Van Allen, who I believe was in 100% totality in Austin, Texas.
I was, but I did not go outside to look at it.
Eric, it was a historic event.
I know it's historic, but like, okay, so number one, I didn't have eclipse glasses because I forgot to get them. Number two, I have an eye that just had surgery done on it, so like
there's that thing that sucks.
I really think that so what I did was NASA had an excellent Twitch stream live where they were like showing the thing from, I think they were somewhere in Mexico, and they had like special like streaming camera with, so many people have ruined their cameras this week, by the way. But they had like a special camera with the filter and all that, and so they were showing it and talking about it and doing all cool kinds of like science talk around it, which was really fun to watch. And then I basically like I opened the windows, like I opened the blinds back there, and I watched as like the whole place just got dark, and it was really, really cool. And then I took a nap, and it was awesome. If you're my employer, you didn't hear that part.
Did you wake up with superpowers?
It felt rad to just like watch the lights go out, basically. So I didn't get to go outside. I saw the previous eclipse when it passed through, which was not a total eclipse here, but it was pretty close. And so I know what an eclipse looks like, but I didn't want to like fry my retina again. So
Did Poe freak out when it got dark?
a little bit. That was also kind of why I was like sitting there and holding him and took a little nap with him, because he was like not like freaking out, but he was definitely like, "What's up? Something's wrong." So
yeah,
I saw the 2017 total eclipse, and the weirdest thing is all the bird song going completely quiet when the eclipse starts and everything starts going dark. Like all of a sudden, it's just dusk.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of nighttime and it gets cold. It's very strange. So I can understand why the animals are freaking out, because I was kind of freaking out too.
We are animals.
But we are animals. This week, we're going to be reviewing the Fallout TV show. And by reviewing, I mean talking about it and see it. So I watched the first 2 episodes. So I think we're going to kind of stay vaguely in that territory. We'll be talking sort of at a high level about what the show's about and like the different characters and how we think that it manages to capture Fallout in general. We will talk about some of the discourse that's been happening, but we'll try and keep it relatively spoiler-free on that category. But guess what, folks? There has been discourse surrounding Fallout New Vegas. What a shock.
Never.
What a shock. We'll be getting to that in just a moment, but if you enjoy the podcast, hey, why don't you support us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod, where for just $1 a month, you can get us ad-free, support the pod, and get access to our Discord. Speaking of the Discord, we have a great crowd here today of our Stars of Destiny who get access to our pre-show and post-show, and they include Anthrax Bees, Azixa, Drew RWX, Flashback 2012, Harvest Lunatic, JB, Laguna Matata 124, which is still my favorite name, Mike versus the World, Robo Riley, one of our esteemed mods, Spooky Man BR, Spirus, and Teeps. You're all amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And also, if you want to support the pod, you can go get at merch at shop.bloodgodpod.com and all that jazz. And we stream every single Saturday on Twitch starting around 9:15 a.m. Pacific. We started a little later than usual today, but subscribe to us on Twitch, twitch.tv/bloodgodpod, and wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be getting also to the Fallout TV show review in a second, but Nadia, I'm going to ask you a really random question.
Sure.
But I was thinking of you when I saw this, okay? It was in the Discord. Did you ever play Legend of Legaia on PlayStation?
Oh, I hate that game so much. I bought that game in the 90s and I was like, oh god, this sucks. What have I done?
The reason I ask is so last week we talked about fighting games and RPGs and the sort of the intersection thereof. And somebody said, I can't believe they never talked about Legend of Legaia. Like, that was a huge oversight. So, Nadia, what is the intersection of Legend of Legaia and fighting games?
Yeah, there was this kind of, like, it's been a long time since I played it, but there was this intersection of fighting and RPG, like brawling was a very big part of it. And I think you had to target certain enemy points, but like during boss fights and whatnot. But boss fights were very hard. The thing I remember most is that it was another one of those games where like they just said, hey, we're going to steal the Mist by Stephen King. We live in a world of mist and there's monsters in there and you have to like fight them. It was kind of a cool premise, to be honest. And to this day, I actually love the music that plays when you're in the mist. But the main character was named Vaughn, and that's like the name of a city above Toronto. And their motto is the city above Toronto, so they annoy me. And there's also a line like it has like one of those real innocent sort of 90s girls in it that has no idea what's going on, and someone calls Vaughn a pimp and she's like, Vaughn, what's a pimp? And it was such a weird, awkward game that I just said, you know what, I am not having fun with these characters, these boss battles. But yes, I can understand why there is an intersection, or people would say, hey, you missed this game, because there is an intersection of like fighting and RPG. It's they try something different, I'll give it that.
Beard Dragoon said, talk about RPGs and fighting games, and nobody brings up the Legend of Legaia series, which has you do fighting game inputs to attack your enemies. While not a perfect series, it stands out due to its combat system and is quite clearly drawing from fighting games and shonen manga like Dragon Ball Z. So
yeah, for sure.
I was like, I think Nadia played that game and hated it.
Yeah, remembered I hated it. Yeah, I haven't played the others.
It.
But yeah, it does deserve a mention, I suppose.
Maybe one day we'll do a Pandemonium episode and put Legend of Legaia in there.
It would be a good Pandemonium episode for sure.
All right. Let's talk about the Fallout TV show, which is now available on Prime Video. It was released all at once. I believe it's 8 total episodes. It's a binge watch. It was announced back in 2020. And it is executive produced by Jonathan Nolan, brother of Christopher Nolan, co-creator of Westworld. It stars Ella Purnell, who's Lucy, Walter Goggins, the Ghoul, Aaron Moten, who is Maximus, Squire of the Brotherhood of Steel. I've watched 2 episodes. Eric, how many episodes have you watched?
2 dose.
2 episodes. How about you, Nadia?
1. First one.
1 episode. Well, Nadia, having watched the first episode, are you inclined to continue?
Yeah, I was telling Eric before we started, like, I will definitely continue, although it's not going to be a binge watch for me. I'm just going to be kind of like having it up while I do other work and just, go 5 minutes here, go back to work. It's not exactly, it's not bad. Like, I liked it, but it's not the kind of show that hooked me and I said, oh my God, I got to watch this whole thing. Like, it's good.
How about you, Eric?
Like, how do I feel about it overall? That's like a
yeah. Are you enjoying
question.
Tricky question.
I don't think it's bad, to be clear. I just don't know that I've hit a point where I am particularly compelled by this show. And this might also be my personal like reticence to everything being a 1-hour prestige TV show these days.
Yeah.
I like just got done.
An hour and 14 minutes. Oh my God, those are long episodes.
Yeah, I just got done watching 3 Body Problem not that long ago, and that was a show where I was like, this is good. I'm interested, but also like every episode is really, really long. And when I was talking to a friend this week, the Avatar stuff just went into Fortnite, and I was telling them why they should watch Avatar. Like I was telling him, it's kind of cool how the episodes of that show are only like 20 minutes. So like even if you're in the middle of an episode and you're like, I'm not really vibing with this, it's done in like 10 more minutes. You can move on to the next one. But like I really felt the length in episode 2 of Fallout. But there's also like I like how they capture some of the maybe not cynicism, but like there's a certain like, man, this idealistic future apologies, this future that is based on, you know, this idealized version of the 50s and all that is like pretty bad, and it seems like it all went wrong, and they capture some like that early Vault stuff really well. But there's also just a lot of like TV show production stuff that they get into that I feel is like a little misguided. I think that first episode has some really bad segments in it, and I don't know. I'm very mixed on it as a whole. I've heard that it gets better.
Mixed to negative.
Mixed.
Interesting.
I don't think it's bad. I've seen worse TV. I just have not hit a point yet where I'm like, this is fantastic. This is.
I do feel like an hour is a little long. Like I feel like I would have preferred 40 minutes.
Am I? So I'm the most positive on this out of all three of you.
Probably.
Interesting. Okay. No, I think I really like it. I think it captures the vibes immaculately. When I was watching the trailer, I was a little worried that it was going to look kind of cheesy or tacky, just because I wasn't sure if the Fallout look was too video gamey and might end up sort of not translating particularly well. But I think they did actually a really great job of certainly bringing in a lot of the little bits of the world. There's so many Easter eggs in terms of all of the different items that are just kind of lying around. There's a scene in episode 2 where she's walking around in an abandoned building, and you see the little tableau of a family with the dead kid and everything that were sitting around the table. And there's sort of old potions and things that she can look at. Very Fallout in that moment. And so I was really surprised how accurately they captured the mood of the actual video game, down to the fact that it does the whole Bethesda thing where Lucy's just looking for her dad.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Come up with a different plot here, Bethesda. Seriously.
Well, it's still interesting because I want to know, in this instance, why they took him away. I mean, I could probably take a guess knowing what I know of the show's the series lore, but yeah, it's still effective. I always find chasing after a ghost is always an interesting plot point.
I mean, it's the old MacGuffin plot, right?
Yeah.
Go get the thing.
There's like subplots going around too, so
it has a decent amount of darkness to it. I always like a good opening where the nuclear bombs are falling. It reminds me of Fallout 4. Actually, it feels like they lifted the opening directly from Fallout 4.
They're gonna nuke my baby.
The vibe is absolutely very Fallout 4, from starting there and seeing some of that, like the world before the fall and all that, to the way they handle the Vault stuff at the beginning, once you actually like jump forward to present time or whatever. It all feels very, very Fallout 4, which shouldn't be that surprising. I mean, Bethesda seems pretty involved in this adaptation.
Very much so. I mean, Todd Howard is a producer on it and seems to have had a lot of creative input. So that's probably why the whole plot point is, I got it. She's looking for her dad.
Yeah.
Lock it in. Let's go. Jonathan Nolan, I think I already mentioned, was the co-creator of Westworld, and you can definitely see a lot of that. Say what you want about Westworld. A show that I did not think was good. Actually, I think it was really bad. But the visual, like the aesthetic, was outstanding. And I think that's definitely the biggest thing that this gets right. I also think it gets the humor. Sort of the pitter patter of the dialogue and everything feels very right for the Fallout universe. Eric's rolling his eyes. Do you disagree with me?
I'm not rolling my eyes, to be clear, audio listeners. I'm more kind of like doing the sort of thing. I like 80% agree with that. I 80% agree with that.
It's very heightened, I will say.
Well, so there's like a 20%. It happened around like episode 2 where there's a weird like spectrum of what you do with like our Fallout is violent and wacky, or our Wasteland
Yeah.
is violent and wacky. And like on one end you have kind of Fallout, which is fairly serious, but also still pretty funny, pretty like jokey. Even you go back to Fallout 1 and 2, you have that ghoul who you can ask, he's talking about like the bombs dropping and all the radiation, and you can be like, what happened next? He's like, oh, I died. And like that's like a whole like laugh line. But you have that, and then you have like Borderlands, where it's just like Claptrap doing memes from early Reddit eras and stuff like that. And like I don't think it goes that far, but there was like a point in episode 2 when they're in that town with like the people that are trying to get one of the characters to a different place, and trying to be like unspecific, but like there's some stuff where they start going like, oh, isn't this Wasteland so wacky and violent all the time? And I'm like, I don't know that I need a ton of that in my Fallout. I think like Fallout does well with just having some violence and some like things are gritty up here. I think every time Walton Goggins is on the screen, he's perfect. Like that, I gotta like give compliments. Yeah. Like he nails the tone, he nails the character, he nails the vibe. Like he understood everything he needed to do here.
Not an easy role to play. I mean, he's missing a nose. He's like kind of gross to look at, but he's a compelling character.
Oh, people still want to screw him. You have to understand.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's Walton Goggins. Like, come on.
I will say that, like, I find it a little jarring because there is a very Fallout flavor to life in the vault, even with the violence that happens in there. But then you shift to these sequences with the Brotherhood of Steel, and those feel much more like generic kind of like Full Metal Jacket scenes where everyone's extremely serious and terrible things are happening to people, and someone is potentially a very violent and angry person going on a squire ship with someone who is probably a violent, terrible person. And those individual scenes, I feel, don't mesh as well as they should sometimes. It's not terrible. It's not like, oh my god, I can't watch this, but it is noticeable, I think. I see where you're coming from, Eric.
There's always been a little bit of a dissonance between the Brotherhood of Steel and the rest of Fallout, I think. Somebody was pointing out that in Fallout 3, the chapter in that game is like maybe a little more noble, a little nicer, but most of the time the Brotherhood of Steel is kind of awful.
Like the Brotherhood, we were talking about this in the pre-show, that the way that the Brotherhood has been interpreted over the length of Fallout, from its origins in Fallout 1 and 2 to when Bethesda picked the franchise up, to when Obsidian then tackled the franchise, to when Bethesda then did the franchise again. Like the Brotherhood has kind of been all over the place, and there's varying degrees of, on one hand, they are an isolationist, like faction that just wants to hoard old world tech and sees themselves as like the arbiters of good humanity, and they're very like tucked away and don't want to engage with the world, and that's what you kind of get in 1 and 2 in Vegas. And then 3, 4, 76, they're a little bit more like cool power armor and they're like more involved in things that are happening, which I think you have some mixed success with. I don't think there's one or the other that is the quote unquote like better, but I do think there's one that I find more compelling in writing, and I don't like the Brotherhood in like 4 particularly or anything like that. So
No, they're pretty annoying in 4 actually.
And so I'm interested to see how they tackle it in the show, because it kind of feels like a blend of the two. You do have this very like isolationist, like they keep themselves away, they have all this tech, all this awesome stuff, but it's like for them, and they're very adamant about like us over everyone else, and they only venture out into the wasteland to go get stuff. There's a part in episode 2 where you get kind of like, oh, this night guy kind of sucks because he's like, I just want to go shoot something, but then I think the power suit looks kind of wacky at times, and not in like a fun way. And like
it looks like actually one of the fakest parts of the show, I think.
It's got a real like guy wearing the Godzilla suit, but I like it when guys wear the Godzilla suit. But like here, like whenever it starts flying, I'm like, do we really need to make the power armor fly in this game? Like I don't personally associate like flight with power armor all the time.
It's true. Did they have did they have jet boosters? I don't remember them having jet boosters in the game.
I'm not familiar enough with like more modern Fallout to say that they don't, but I like broadly when I think of power armor, I think of this lumbering Hulk machine.
Yeah,
That
I
you
think I'm going to
use.
punch a Deathclaw.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the big thing that you get as like this is a really cool resource, but also something that you have to manage, that you have to keep powered up, that you have to keep repaired. And so I did like that idea of like here's the squire that has to carry around this giant bag of equipment to like keep the power suit battle ready at all times. I thought that was a really neat addition to like show that and have that there. But then every time we've had the power suit since, it's been kind of goofy. And like granted, both times it was used narratively, it was like, okay, you have this dude who's getting messed up by a grizzly bear, and it's supposed to be kind of funny that he's not this brave knight and all that. And then you have another situation where the person using the power armor is like not familiar with it, and so it's kind of goofy the way they're using it. But I'm just kind of sitting here like, is the power armor a laugh line now? Like, are we gonna see the power armor do cool things besides just kind of like fly around and then like punch people, but like punch people where you can like feel the wires like carrying them across the
It's when he
soundstage?
punches them, it's like and then Walton Goggins goes ah! It's like the disparity between the amount of force that he puts into that punch
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Walton Goggins flying across the
It
screen
looks
is
a little Power
something.
Ranger. Power
Yeah.
Ranger.
It is very Power Ranger.
The action has just been a little goofy for me so far, and I'm hoping
Oh.
that gets better because I'm not, again, this doesn't need to be like very serious or all that. It should have like a bit of a like
Very cartoony
silliness
by
to it.
design, I think.
It's a little overly cartoony at times, and I'm kind of waiting for like episode 1. I think the biggest fumble in the show so far, episode 1 has that sequence inside the vault where things have gone bad, right? And there's
Yeah.
kind of all kinds of bad stuff happening. And I had to like double check to make sure this was supposed to be playing this way. They like dip out all sound, pump up like the non-diegetic music or whatever. Like here's this like sad song playing over it, and everything's in slow-mo, and they do it for like 5 minutes. It is painstakingly long. And
Yeah.
I was just sitting there like, okay, we get it. Like, bad stuff happening. Things are going wrong. I understand. And, like, I think that sequence would have been more
They're
interesting.
doing
if
the
it was-
VATS thing.
Yeah.
Nah.
I think it would have been more interesting if it was kind of moving a little bit faster and you had that sense of, like, chaos is ensuing and what's happening and the character feeling a bit frantic. And instead it felt like everyone, like, took a melatonin and then, like, got into a fight. And I was like, I'm getting a little sleepy watching this. Can we, like, speed things up a little bit? I just feel like a lot of the action is
I
where the
did
show has
hit,
fallen
like,
apart for me.
the 10-second, 10-second ahead, 10-second ahead. Like, okay. Blood. Guts.
That was the point where my housemate Ryan stood up and said, "This isn't what I signed up for," and walked out. And I was just like, okay.
What?
Uh,
I understand. It was a bit gratuitous, but Fallout
It
is pretty
was,
violent.
I mean, I was taken aback by the violence a little bit. And then I thought for a moment, and then I thought, oh, no, Fallout's pretty violent.
Oh.
Where you're blowing people's heads up and stuff in VATS and slow-mo. So it sort of makes sense, actually.
Bethesda Fallout in particular is extremely violent. Like you go back to Fallout 3 and you, even not in VATS, you just shoot somebody and usually they don't just like go and fall over. They explode into body parts. Like they just go
Sure
flying in 5 different directions, and it's almost a little bit jarring. And I guess maybe that does fit the cartoony vibe, but one thing I will
A little
say,
bit of... Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say one thing I will say, like going back to that like vault segment, Ella Purnell, incredible casting. The bit where she goes and she's like hanging out with that dude and he pulls the naked man on her, and just her expression when she turns around, she's like, okay. And like I was like she nails the vault dweller vibe of like someone who is naive but determined, like doesn't know the world outside, but is like really like trying to survive, but is always shocked by what is happening around her. Like she just nails a very perfect vibe. She was excellent on Yellow Jackets, so that makes sense that she's shown up again here. But I'm glad she's getting like a really. I honestly, if I keep watching the show, it's going to be because Ella Purnell, Walton Goggins, a bunch of like the main characters are really good, really well cast, like really solid performances.
I'll be honest. I kind of like watching it for the music because
Yeah, very 50s music.
I love the Fallout music. I think it's a delight to listen to, and it does the Breaking Bad thing where it has little almost vignettes. So episode 2 basically opens with the origin of dog meat, and it tells you, it shows a lot of stories over the course of 5 minutes, and it's playing the classic Fallout music, and I'm just thinking, yeah, this is exactly the vibe that I'm looking for. Kind of funny, kind of cute, kind of dark, kind of terrifying, all overlaid with sort of the sweet Fallout vibe. And so it's for moments like that, I think, where they manage to actually really capture the spirit and the tone of the series. And also, I like dog meat. Dog meat's very sweet.
Dog meat's a
good
good
pup.
dog.
Yeah.
I love German Shepherds so much.
Yeah.
I miss mine.
Exactly.
I do think Fallout is, even from like people I've talked to who have watched further into the series, it seems like a series that is very much being carried by its cast, by its acting, by its performances. I haven't seen people going like, I maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I get further in and there's some big like set piece or fight scene or something like that that gets really impressive, but I feel like a lot of the praise I've seen so far has been for performances and capturing the vibe and the characters of this world. And honestly, if that's what we end up getting out of this, that's still a pretty decent win. I think that like in
better than Halo.
Yeah. Like surprisingly, video game adaptations have struggled to get characters right. I would even say some of the larger, like more notable adaptations we've had, like Uncharted, obviously, I think there were some misguided attempts there to capture the vibe of Uncharted. I've heard people argue about The Last of Us and whether that really captures. I
have a lot of problems with The Last of Us. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but I have a lot of problems with it.
So
I haven't watched it.
It's nice to see that it helps that they're telling an original story here, right? Same thing with like
not
having to adapt a video game character or anything like that. They can
There's many vaults out there.
I think a lot
Pick
of
a vault.
Good adaptations we've had so far usually have that luxury of like, okay, Castlevania is kind of adapting Castlevania 3, but like only loosely, and they get a little bit of freedom because there wasn't a lot of story to go off of there, so they get to like expand out and be like, what is it like when Trevor and Sifa and Alucard hang out and vibe together? And then Arcane is obviously like, you have the framework of League of Legends, but they got a lot of freedom to do what they wanted with those characters. So maybe that's the secret sauce for a video game adaptation at the end of the day, is don't just one-to-one adapt a video game, like try to tell a story within the video game universe.
That's why I like Detective Pikachu so much. It was just the Pokemon universe and a Pikachu story. What else do we need?
And Cyberpunk Edgerunners is, I think, like, honestly, even if you want to call it a video game adaptation, that kind of feels weird in some ways, but it is heavily inspired by CD Projekt Red's vision of Night City, and that is honestly, I think, the best video game adaptation that we have had. I would put it over things like Castlevania, and it's that, or like the original Mortal Kombat, which was just captured the right goofy vibe.
That was so perfect for the time. There's actually
a movie I just saw recently, actually.
Oh, really? What did you think?
You hadn't seen that before?
I had never seen it before. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Really good martial arts sequences. Surprisingly good mix of practical martial arts effects, but at the same time, they managed to get the actual vibes from the game into it. They actually did a surprisingly good job of making it violent without making it literally rated R and having people's heads explode. So good stuff. Good cheesy fun.
Goro just needs to be punched in the nuts, and that's more than enough
Yeah,
for
just took him
Dainu,
out. He stepped on Johnny Cage's glasses. What the heck? But
And the soundtrack still slaps.
the
100%.
soundtrack is excellent.
I love
No, it's
Scooter.
perfect.
I don't care. Like someone gave me shade on Twitter because I like Scooter, but you can go to hell. Scooter's the best. Are you ready?
Mortal Kombat. I totally agree, Eric. I think that's one of the advantages that RPGs have over adaptations of maybe other genres, and that they're built specifically around world building. So it's a lot easier to go in and tell a unique story that can fit really well on TV rather than trying to rehash the events of a video game, which is sort of what, I think The Last of Us does a lot right, but it just kind of rehashing the original game. There are pacing issues. There's weirdness with trying to adapt the action of a video game into a television format. And say what you want about Fallout, but the world is really compelling. That's why people enjoy going back to it. That mix of 1950s and sort of Mad Max dystopia. It's a striking visual for you. So in that respect, I think Fallout was, in hindsight, a really good subject for a TV adaptation and whatnot, which makes me think a lot about how Final Fantasy just can't seem to get movie adaptations right. Probably because it doesn't have one coherent world necessarily.
This is going to be a rough episode for us talking about Final Fantasy, let me tell you.
I guess so.
Yeah, Final Fantasy, all of their movies that I can think of right now, at least, outside of The Spirits Within, are kind of doing sequel, prequel, that sort of thing with the world, and Kingsglaive.
I never watched that. It looks like a mess.
I've had long talks with people about the ways that I think 15 would have been better received if, instead of putting all that stuff in a movie, you actually had just some level of a playable segment within the city of Insomnia before the boys leave it, and how much that would have improved so many aspects of that game. And I could go for hours on that, but that didn't help there. I think Advent Children is kind of goofy in a way. It did give us the Tifa church fight scene, which is fantastic, but I think the movie aspirations of Square Enix have always kind of been a little goofy at times, and I can appreciate them for what they are. I like them for what they are, but also they get caught up in what is maybe a broader Square Enix problem of being so involved and invested in a canon, in sequeling and things like that they kind of pigeonhole themselves. And then, I don't know, I'd rather play that stuff than see it on the screen. I don't think it really appeals to me in that way. But I did see Kingsglaive in theaters when it came out, so let me tell you.
Wow, were you the only one there?
It was a small theater. There were not a lot of people there, but it was a strange experience because I was going to review 15 at the time, and so I was like, well, I need to make sure I see Kingsglaive so I understand important context for my review. And I walked out of that thing, and I was like, the hell was that shit?
I understand nothing.
So yeah, I would love to see an attempt at a Final Fantasy movie that is on its own and kind of
animated movie. Last Order, I think it was called. That was good. That was an animated movie by Madhouse, but it was just a short. What happened to Zack and Cloud kind of interlude. It was 20 minutes. It came along with Advent Children, but that was good. It was just a simple adaptation of what happened. And if you're going to do a Final Fantasy movie, you're going to need to establish where the hell are we doing this. The answer is Evilus.
I totally agree, by the way. Ivalice is maybe one of the best areas to do a Final Fantasy adaptation in. A little tired of the Final Fantasy VII world at this point, maybe because I've been experiencing so much of it through all the ancillary material in Final Fantasy VII and whatnot. But in terms of adapting Fallout's world, there has been a little bit of a controversy, and that's specifically is it relates to Fallout New Vegas, and there's some timeline discrepancies within the television show. I won't really go into detail about why, but suffice it to say, some people think that Fallout New Vegas is basically being retconned out of existence. Eric thinks it's a lot more ambiguous. We were talking about this over chat yesterday, I think. But I mean, a lot of this goes back to people thinking that Bethesda has a grudge against Obsidian and the fact that people like Fallout New Vegas as much as they do. I can say that at least back in like 2017, I was very aware of bad feelings between the two companies over Fallout New Vegas and Fallout New Vegas specifically. So I do think that there's some merit to this particular conspiracy theory. And when I say, and of course, people will point out that Bethesda rarely acknowledges Fallout New Vegas in any of their other works. So what do we make of this latest controversy? Eric, is it overblown?
Yes, it's.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
If you want to seek it out again, we're trying to not do spoilers. I get that the show is fairly new. Like I haven't even gotten to the part yet in the show where you actually see it. I've just had to be aware of it because I work for a website and have to edit articles about these things. And so I will say that I have done some digging. I have looked into it. My feeling is mostly that this is a bit overblown. I think there is a level of interpretation open to this that does not immediately retcon anything. And even the thing that is being retconned is fairly small beans. At the end of the day, it would be like more of a discrepancy. It would be more of like, oh, this doesn't line up with this, but it's not like they're suddenly being like, yeah, and it turns out that like Caesar's Legion never existed. Like it's not that level of that or anything.
Yeah.
But like I mean, there's always been some merit to the degree that like Bethesda just seems like it does not want to go anywhere near Vegas, does not want to go anywhere near the West Coast and deal with that past and
East Coast, baby. East Coast bias. I understand.
And it's interesting to me because obviously that's a situation where a studio took over, made a game, at the time had, infamously like issues with the game, issues with the launch, but became a cult classic and in many ways became the thing that people constantly ask for. I feel like you don't see a lot of people go like, we want Fallout 3 remastered or whatever. It's a lot of like, we want New Vegas, like bring back New Vegas, do New Vegas 2. Oh my gosh, Obsidian and Bethesda are under the same umbrella now. They should just give Fallout to Obsidian. And like, you've got to imagine some people probably get a chip on their shoulder about that. That's just me speculating, but I know in those shoes, I would maybe get a chip on my shoulder about it. But I would also be really surprised if the forum in which that chip was expressed was the big prestige television show that they are trying to like get a slam dunk. Like this is kind of the goal of all these adaptations is companies want to take these properties that have traditionally been like media properties for video games only and make them transmedia properties, make them like merchable to a larger audience, make them
Fallout universe
grander. Yeah, like look at what I mean, Pokemon has always been like this, and this is why Pokemon is probably one of the biggest franchises in video gaming like ever, is because Pokemon was not just a video game. Pokemon was a trading card game. Pokemon was a lifestyle brand. Pokemon was all these different things. And the Pokemon company has always been very adamant about like, here are all the different ways you can consume Pokemon stuff, even if you don't play Pokemon. Other companies don't always do that, but Sega with Sonic the Hedgehog all of a sudden is like, oh, Sonic was a hit. People care about Sonic probably more than they have in a lot of years. And people who aren't just playing our video games, but they want t-shirts with Sonic on them. They want to go buy the Sonic movie. They want to see the Knuckles TV show. And so every company wants that because that's just more money, baby. That's more money rolling in. And so I would be really surprised if the forum in which Bethesda decides to air out its beef with New Vegas is in something that is also trying to launch the Fallout transmedia pipeline. I I would be surprised if that was the case where they decide to air out this beef, but who's to say?
It is a little bit of a weird timeline discrepancy though, and
It is
I
strange.
want to hear what they have to say about it. Or is it a discrepancy? Who can say? It's fuzzy.
I do think whoever gets the next interview with the Fallout team needs to like sit them down and be like, "Hey, what's up with this? Like,
Oh yeah.
help this make sense because we're all a little
Talk us
confused."
through this one
Yeah,
right
yeah.
here. Because I don't think that the usual trade magazines are really equipped or particularly interested in that kind of beef. It's very much in the video game space, I want to say, but we shall see. We shall see. The funny thing is that Bethesda and Obsidian are under the same umbrella now with Xbox. I have to imagine that even though there are still some of the people who were there, back in 2017 or whatever, back when Fallout New Vegas, if I recall correctly, one of the like key founders is still involved with Obsidian. Josh Sawyer is still there, for example. But I mean, they are under the same umbrella. I imagine the context has changed. Maybe feelings have changed. Who can say? I can only speculate at this point. But
Phil Spencer sitting everyone down like, okay, we're all going to play nice.
Okay, children, settle down.
Mr. Nolan's coming here in 5 minutes and we need a good TV show for him. So we're all going to be chill.
The wolf's at our door.
Exactly.
Let's do this.
I think Ethan Gatch made a funny post about how Xbox is finally having a cultural moment thanks to a Bethesda RPG that was based on an Interplay RPG or acquired from Interplay or something like that.
Yeah, the world's a weird place.
The world is a weird place, but I have to say that as video game adaptations go, the Fallout TV show is one of the better ones.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, not that invested in the characters at this point. I do agree that the actors are really good, but from a dramatic standpoint, I'm still kind of waiting for that moment where I get really hooked into their individual conflicts.
Yeah.
Mostly I'm just like, oh, Walton Goggins is fun, or Lucy, I hope she's okay. That's the
Lucy, you okay? Lucy, are you okay?
Lucy, you're okay. Maximus, good luck. It does have a little bit of that Star Wars, The Force Awakens vibe in the way that they set up everything, I think. But I think the world is the star of the show so far in this one. Like, so much is happening, especially in the background. All the little visual Easter eggs that are in this embedded into this show, the way that they capture the overall vibes. So I'm just kind of vibing with the show and less invested in the story overall, but we shall see. Maybe the story gets a lot better. It did get excellent reviews. It's like 94 on Rotten Tomatoes right now. But Nadia, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll keep on watching it. As you say, it's not exactly a show that I want to binge, but I will just kind of definitely keep giving it a chance. When it comes to Fallout, I'm very kind of hit and miss. I know a lot of the lore, I know a lot of the characters, but the games themselves, I liked 3. I played quite a bit of 3. 4 gave me terrible motion sickness, so I had to stop. But I do know enough about like the world itself that I find the Fallout world compelling, and I'd like to see how it's continued to be represented. I want to see someone wrestle with a death claw.
That would be a very Bethesda move. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I might still watch it. I've got other shows that I think I'm just vibing more with, and I'm prioritizing. Like I need to catch up on X-Men '97 and
Yes, you
some
do.
other stuff. So, it's not like hitting that level for me, but it's something. I'm curious to see how it all pans out, and I do love the Walton Goggins, so I go gaga for the gods.
Maybe the weakness of this is the Bethesda of it all. Bethesda, I don't think has ever been.
Of it all.
I just don't think Bethesda has been all that interested in telling a truly compelling story. They do vignettes, they do little short stories, but mostly they're about experiencing the world, and whatever story they end up telling is just sort of a way to get you hooked into it. But I mean, I've always said with Skyrim, I don't care about the conflict between the Empire and the Nords. My story ended when I married my werewolf girlfriend and settled down in a house and had 2 orphans for some reason. Whatever.
They just come in. Hi, are your kids now?
Hello.
We don't eat
But
much.
so when you translate that to a television show, you can have a really interesting visual splendor, spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
And with some fun characters and a lot of fun moments and maybe a little darkness, and that can translate, but maybe it needs a really solid dramatic hook. And Bethesda, in so many respects, frequently has shown that they struggle with that aspect particularly. So if there's one thing that I hope that the Fallout TV show gives me by the end of it is real feelings, real emotions. Some real drama. Get me invested in these characters. Get me invested in the Ghoul and Lucy and Maximus. I wanna care about them. So we shall see. It's available on Prime Video right now. It's getting excellent reviews, and maybe we'll talk about it again once we finish it. But all right, that's it for our Fallout TV show review. It's time now for a series of random encounters. Speaking of Fallout 4 is getting a next-gen update on April 25th, increasing the res to 60 FPS on PS5, Xbox, and Xbox Series XS. Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year at the BAFTAs, with Raphael's VA winning Best Supporting. Eric writes in big all caps, parentheses, deserved.
So deserved. Oh my god.
No argument here.
I'm glad that performer got an award finally. Yeah.
Interestingly, over on IGN, they talked to Neil Newbin, who plays Asterion on the red carpet, and he said that he is not done with this with the character of Asterion. Maybe Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro will do more with him in future Dungeons and Dragons media. There was the III Indie Showcase this week, and there's a bunch of news for RPG fans. One of them was the Palworld PvP being teased, which is sort of an arena battler, I suppose. 2 people running around with guns, and then also some pals standing around awkwardly. It's a bit silly, but whatever. Eric was shaking his head just now.
I told you all months ago. I was like, Palworld's
really
hot. It's fun. It's interesting, but it's probably going to be a little bit of a flash in the pan. And I feel like I am largely being proven right at the moment. So,
yeah, a little bit. I mean, it just doesn't have the support of a Helldivers 2. But also we got Slay the Spire 2, baby. Let's go. This is again all caps from Eric. Very exciting. Not in Unity this time. They did, in fact, confirm that it's going over to a free open source engine. On the face of it, does not look too different from previous Slay the Spire. Previous Slay the Spire. Looks like they have a new character. It looks like they have variants on 2 of the original characters, the armor guy and the hunter.
The Ironclad.
The Silent.
And the Silent, yeah.
And then a new character is sort of like a Lich or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I would hope that the other 2 characters, the monk character and the defect, I love the defect. Probably my favorite character to play in Slay the Spire now that I think about it. I hope they make an appearance in some way, but really, like, Slay the Spire has already been going for so long. There's a lot of great fan mods out there that just extend the life of that game, and even just base Slay the Spires, we'll probably talk about in the Tavern segment, is still really, really good. So if this is more Slay the Spire, great. That's all I can ask for.
Truly, and that's exactly what it looks like. More Slay the Spire, but we shall know more. It goes into early access in mid-2025. Blizzard has returned to China thanks to a deal with NetEase. Destiny 2 revealed the prismatic subclass for the final shape, mixing light and dark, which I guess was really exciting for Destiny people. While Cataclysm Classic launches on May 20th, and they're also doing something around Mists of Pandaria as well. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has fixed its platinum trophy issues, so you can get your platinum trophy. Also, in the end game, there's a really annoying and really poorly worded retry menu. They fixed that too, so it's a little bit
I
easier
missed that.
this
Damn.
time around.
Was it like try you again? No.
Former Blizzard president Mike Ibarra thinks tipping $10 to $20 on a $70 game is a good idea, saying that some games are just that special. Eric, do you want to comment on this?
Where's the tip going?
Yeah, I'm sure that tip is
that's what I need
going
to know.
to the people that, yeah, Mike Ibarra, where is that tip going?
If you can find a way that I can personally hand $10 to a developer and say, here you go, sure, why not? But I don't think that tip's going anywhere near developers.
If you let me walk into Larian Studios and put like a $10 bill in each of like the writers' desks, like they've got those little Valentine's Day cubby hole things.
Oh, the cards. Guess who likes you?
Some dollars into it, then we're talking. But if I'm just handing another $10 to $20 on a $70 game to Blizzard, the entity, I don't think so.
Wow, thank you.
That's fly. But it's okay.
I think that could work well. I think that could work well if there was explicitly a pot for developers, and if you tipped the money went directly to the workers. That ain't gonna happen though.
This is like backwards inventing itch.io, pay what you want, and also really great sign for the health of the industry that we're going like, well, games are $70 now, but what if we could just give more money to them? Like, that's people talking about sustainability of the games industry are just shifting uncomfortably in their seats now.
I've been drinking.
And finally, this is a weird one. Possibility Space, which was a studio founded in 2021 by the State of Decay creator Jeff Strain, shut down abruptly. Everybody was laid off, including friend of the pod, Austin Walker. And get this, in a strange memo to the staff, he blamed a journalist, other friend of the show, Ethan Gatch, saying that he was going to put out a report that included NDA material, likened it to a hack or a security breach because it came from employees in the studio, and said, I can't trust any of you, basically, so we're shutting this whole thing down.
And then also said, like, got on a plane, talked to I believe it was a publishing partner, and like the publishing partner was like, actually, this isn't going to work. So if you knew that there was hypothetically in Minecraft, if you knew that bad information was coming out and you wanted to like maybe get ahead of it and maybe spin the narrative towards your way, and maybe you didn't care about who this riled up, you could just say it's journalism's fault and then do the bad thing. That is something you could do.
Yeah. In Minecraft.
The way you might attract attention with that might indicate that the journalism that, by the way, is not published yet, is not out yet as of the time of this recording. That ain't public yet. So I would say that if you're freaking out so much about an article that you're willing to shut a studio down, that's a pretty damning indictment of what might be in that article. So I feel awful because there were a lot of people at that studio who do incredible work, a lot of really, really talented developers. And this is just adding to the growing number of layoffs in this industry and people out of work in this industry. And I feel for every single one of them. It's difficult. It's incredibly difficult. And I think we should all be spitting mad about this because this is just something terrible. We're watching the industry fall to pieces, and I really hope that things get better because right now it's been a pretty bad year for video games. So yeah.
It has been a pretty bad year for video games. You're right. So heart goes out to everybody who worked really hard on the games. It really sucks to have the rug pulled out from you like this. It's a very strange situation, and frankly, like, the report hasn't even come out yet. It was Ethan
just blaming a journalist, like knowing what the atmosphere is towards like game journalists in particular, and I was saying how there was a pact where they had to have like cops off duty at our panel because someone was talking shit about us, and it's like, this is video games, people. How seriously do you want to take life? Like, just I don't know, the hostile environment right now is just kind of getting to my head, I suppose. I've been at this
It's
for a
just the
while,
internet.
and it's pretty bad.
Everything's heated, but I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'm not going to share them. Yeah, no, Ethan was just asking for comment,
Yeah.
frankly. And I don't know what the report was about. It kind of seems like the report was about maybe the studio being kind of toxic in some ways, bog standard toxic workplace report. And maybe they confirmed some of the accusations that were going on there, in just pulling the plug abruptly and what almost felt like a temper tantrum
For
over
sure.
this.
As
So,
Eric said, trying to get ahead. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, jerk.
Yeah.
If anything, this has probably just added fuel to the pyre, but honestly, it seems like the people running this company don't really care about that at this point. So
no.
I'm just fascinated to see what's in that article and probably what's still out there and still being reported on. So, you know,
Good times.
yeah,
Weird stuff. Another thing that Eric highlighted, and he says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is underperforming, says industry analyst. I think that we were kind of getting that vibe. I don't know if Square Enix has released actual hard numbers
I haven't
yet
seen any.
on FF7 Rebirth, but I can say anecdotally, over at IGN, like it fell off pretty hard, pretty fast. A lot of the stuff that we were doing wasn't really landing. It exited the discourse really fast in a way that kind of surprised me. And I mean, there's been certainly whispers for a while now that FF7 Rebirth has been maybe not doing as well as anybody might have hoped. Eric, do you want to add a little more context to this?
Yeah, so this came from an industry analyst, Daniel Ahmad, who's I think pretty well looked upon within like the analyst landscape, and he said on Twitter that Rebirth has sold roughly about half the sales of its predecessor remake in the same time frame. So given like the same amount of time that the game has been out, it's been about half of what Remake did. That doesn't give us an idea of what numbers are, what hard numbers are, but that does at least give us an indication that Rebirth is not selling as well as Remake did. And we've talked on the podcast before that like even Remake, compared to other games of its scale and size, was a little bit under probably what people wanted for it. I think the last sales number we had for that was like 8 mil or something like that. I'm double checking it right now, but it was not a great thing to see because I feel like personally Final Fantasy is in a strange place right now. It is split across multiple different fronts. You've got 16, the new game, you've got 14, the MMO, and you've got the remake trilogy. And I feel like 16 probably performed as well as you could hope. We were talking about it in the Discord the other day. Mike was hanging out with me, and we were kind of doing our industry analysis sales number talk that he and I sometimes get into. And nice. 16 was in like the top 20 of 2023 per Circana, but like it was not super high up, so it did okay. And clearly there's some desire to want to like goose those numbers up a little bit. I think when the PC port arrives, you'll probably see another influx of interest and sales around 16. 14 is still like a golden goose. They had the live letter last night, the letter from the producer, and they were talking about how they had like 30 million players and all these different things, and like 14 has never been better. It's never been a better time to play 14. But Remake has felt like the odd duck out in all this. As people in the Discord pointed out, this is a trilogy series where you kind of need to be familiar with FF7 at this point, and even like extended FF7 to kind of get what they are doing with a lot of these things. And even then, Rebirth is right now a PS5 console exclusive that is $70. That is a sequel to another very long RPG. And so I was pointing out that even if somebody, let's say, some random person was like, oh, Rebirth looks pretty cool, they're going to get told like, okay, well, to understand what Rebirth is doing, you're going to need to play Remake, and you're probably going to need to at least watch a YouTube video or something to understand what's happening in FF7 in general and get like a lore breakdown or analysis. And there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if we are going to see like a compilation. I'm sure we're going to see a compilation of all 3 games, and I'm sure that would sell pretty well. But if they did like a wrap up of the first game, maybe the Yuffie DLC and Rebirth, probably have a pretty good bundle going on, especially put it on the PC.
So there's a bundle that came out with Rebirth where you could buy Remake and Rebirth together, and that includes the Yuffie stuff. I think that like it's kind of a bummer because Rebirth as an RPG is really, really enjoyable. I think that
it's one of my favorites this year. I finished it, yeah.
That combat system is, I think, Square Enix's best attempt at trying to create a new action RPG system. I've said it before that like I like 16 a lot. I enjoy 16 a lot. I'm really looking forward to the DLC that's coming out this coming week. But it's a lot more action than RPG. It is Clive May Cry, you know? It's way more in that side of the things, whereas like I think Rebirth is very smart in how it approaches party mechanics and RPG mechanics, and it's an area that I would love Square Enix to continue to explore. And Mike and I were talking about what if you had this FF4 style game that was an original story set in that kind of world, and you had the Rebirth mechanics in there and the party mechanics.
I would love that.
It would be incredible, and I do wonder if the nostalgia for FF7 is not carrying this trilogy as hard as Square Enix hoped it would. Basically, like this is a series that is largely trying to coast on a wave of nostalgia for FF7 as this incredible RPG that it was at the time, and I wonder if it's not carrying this series as far as Square Enix thought it might.
I think it'll have a long
I was always given to understand, admittedly, this is gossip, secondhand sources, that kind of thing, so take it for what you will, but that Square Enix viewed Final Fantasy VII Remake as sort of a break glass in case of emergency sort of move. And it's like, well, okay, but Final Fantasy VII, a remake, that's gold, solid gold right here. And I think they were actually quite taken aback by Remake not even kind of matching FF15 sales. And admittedly, like there's a difference. FF15 was multi-platform, and FF7 Remake was I believe a PS4 exclusive when it originally launched before eventually coming out on PC. And so there is a difference in that, but I think they were just, expecting it to be a megaton kind of situation. And of course, we were always going to see a decline. It's just natural that there's going to be a decline with a sequel, especially a direct sequel. A lot of confusion, actually, among people who weren't directly plugged into Final Fantasy VII. They're like, should I play Rebirth? Do I need to play Remake before playing Rebirth? What's going on? I don't really feel... This is anecdotally conversations that I had with people who are not invested in the Final Fantasy VII space. Do I need to play the original game? And then, of course, you had fans saying, no, you have to play the game and watch Advent Children, and then read all the ancillary material and play Crisis Core, and then maybe you will be allowed to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I was like, maybe that's why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't doing so well. It feels sort of overwhelming to, the typical person, which sort of whatever. I think the best thing that Square can do is get it on as many platforms as possible. I don't think it should be an exclusive. I think it should be on Xbox. I think it should be on PC. Heck, it should be on Switch too. It should be put in front of people right now. I feel like it's just too inaccessible. Everybody nodding. Cat makes a good point again.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like Square is both really like high right now on certain things, and then also in like a really weird precarious position on other things. Like 14 Dawn Trail, I think is going to be just a really great moment for that MMO. Like new arc, new world, new things to do. I feel like, I've been jumping back into 14 right now because I'm grinding out the Manderville relic weapons and just loving being back in that world and doing stuff there. I think 16 is going to get a really good update this week. Like the stuff they showed of Leviathan and the DLC there looks really, really fun. I'm really excited for that roguelite mode that they have coming. But like, I also then look at what does a Final Fantasy 17 look like? What does the expanded Final Fantasy world look like? And I almost think that we just need more spin-offs, more like willingness to experiment with what Final Fantasy is, because I made this point, we were talking about it the other day, that Persona is now arguably larger than SMT as a brand, as a franchise. It certainly has a pull that even SMT does not. You know, look at Persona 5 compared to SMT 5. And I wonder if you can make a Persona of Final Fantasy, if there's a way to spin that off, maybe not in a way that eclipses Final Fantasy, but certainly in a way that like gives that series a little bit more to stand on than having to dig into its past and resurface it to like rekindle that flame. I think Stranger of Paradise was a really, really smart game. Like it wasn't just a good game, but it was a smart idea to put that team on that project, had them tackle that stuff, and I think it worked out really well. Stranger of Paradise has been a pretty popular game for, you know, Final Fantasy spin-offs aren't always super popular. So I maybe that needs to happen. Maybe they need to kind of look at, okay, Final Fantasy, what do we do with this as a brand moving forward? How do we expand it in ways that make sense for Final Fantasy? Because maybe the break glass contingency plan didn't work so well as we thought it would. But I mean, the trilogy's fun. The trilogy's interesting. I want to see it end. I want to see it brought to its conclusion.
I will be very mad if there's not, if they decide, okay, we're not doing the last one because it didn't sell so well. I will be like, no, I'm gonna.
They don't finish.
They're finishing. They're finishing the trilogy. They've already written the story. I think so. The Ultimania is being translated right now, and I believe it was Nomura who said, "Story's done. We're ready to start doing voice recording. We hope that it'll basically be a similar development cycle to Rebirth." And so 2027 is looking like the finale. They're going to reuse a lot of assets. So much has already been built. You might as well finish the thing at this point.
Finish the fight.
Finish the fight. Get this out of there. One way or another, it's weird. It has that Rebuild of Evangelion vibe to it.
Yeah.
Rebuild of Evangelion managed to sort of stick the landing after I thought a really disastrous third movie. I hated that movie so much.
It's not that. Come on. It's just two young boys playing piano together.
I know.
Symbolism.
Very, very heterosexual.
These wild horses galloping in the fields.
Ultimately, it's not what I wanted out of Evangelion, but as a work, it was fine. There's a lot that I love about the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. I'm interested to see where it ends up. I hope they have like a real banger of a finale. I'm going to finish Rebirth at some point. I've been a little busy.
Please do.
Usually with Unicorn Overlord, which I'm like 70 hours into and still haven't finished. Lol. But it's going to happen. Anyway, we're rolling into the tavern now, talking about what we've been playing, what we've been doing. And y'all, I had a major milestone. I tried something for the very first time. And you know what? I kind of liked it. I played, honest to God, tabletop Warhammer 40K.
Warburger.
Yeah, it was cool. Did y'all ever play Warhammer 40K on a tabletop?
I've watched a dude paint his models. That's about it.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Kat.
That's like half the fun, right?
I applaud you. I applaud you for this. I'm happy for you. I'm not going to make this mistake because I know what happens when I sit down and I'm like, oh no, this is fun. Oh no, I enjoy this. You see my bookshelf back there filled with manga.
Oh no.
You see the mini Pokemon card boxes I have lying around. I am susceptible to things.
We certainly
if
are.
I get into Warhammer, I will not recover. So I will enjoy it from a distance. You tell me about how good Warhammer is, and I will listen to you talk about it, and
Eric,
I will never engage with it personally.
Eric, it's for the best that you don't engage with this because it's a very expensive hobby.
Yeah,
It takes up a lot of space, and frankly, I know you would love it. you would just be all in on it.
It would be a problem.
Because it would be a problem. But my friend is really into Warhammer 40K. They have multiple armies. So they had the Terminator Marines. They had I think they're called like Dark Angels or something like that.
Oh, the
Marines.
The Sisters of Battle, maybe, or
no, it's.
Or
I think they're called like Dark Angels. So they're more shooty.
Oh, okay.
They had a Terminid army.
Ooh.
And they had Necrons, and they've, I guess, been playing, building up the Necrons. Yeah, Necrons are pretty cool, actually. I was hoping the Orcs are kind of like the army that I would pick, just because they go Warg and
the Wog, yeah.
They go Wog, and they go faster because they're painted red, and they're just fun. They look like they're having the most fun out of anybody in the Warhammer 40K universe, but. So we all picked an army. I ended up picking the bog standard Terminator army. And we did a 2-on-2 kind of situation after we learned how to play the game. And we set up the Terminators and the Dark Angels versus the Necrons and the Terminids on this big map. And there's sort of all of these ruined buildings and everything. It was like somebody created a 3D D&D map. And at base, I learned how much tactics RPGs draw from classic Warhammer 40K just design. Stuff like going into Overwatch and the Overwatch mechanics, the way that you position your characters, how cover works, how being able to move a character, but then if you advance, then you can't attack, being able to move and shoot. All of this stuff is in there. It's a little weird because you don't have a hex system. You have a ruler, and you literally measure out the number of inches that a unit can move, and then you kind of set them up. And there are multiple phases and everything, but I kind of instantly grokked this because I really enjoy tactics games in general. It's probably my favorite genre at this point. And it was so much fun. We didn't even finish the game. We played for like multiple hours, and we were still kind of learning it. So it was very slow, being like, okay, like how many dice do I need to roll? Like, where do I move the characters? How do I set everything up? But I was able to figure it out. My secret MVPs were my flamethrower regimen, who were in Overwatch all the time, and the bugs kept walking right into them and getting burnt. And I was like, yes. Yeah, this is great. I'm having a great time. I'm not going to, go crazy and buy like a full army and a tabletop set and everything. However, my housemate, Ryan, is getting very excited about Warhammer 40K, and his theory is that he's going to buy a really nice 3D printer and like print it all out, print out armies basically. And then my partner Emily, so we'll print out an orc army, and then my partner Emily will help me color them or help me paint them because she really loves doing the artistic stuff. And so we'll have an army that we can bring over to this house, and we can all play together. So
cool.
Maybe this is the beginning of something new and terrible. Mark this moment. Could be a pot where Kat becomes a Warhammer 40K sicko.
The last time we see Kat before she gets herself to the Empire.
No longer going out to get cigarettes, going out to get paints.
I know. Y'all, I got a new unit for my orc army. Also, I'm going to tournaments now. I've just become a full-time Warhammer 40K influencer, I have to say. Pivoting. Axe of the Blood God. The name finally makes sense.
Finally. It is good for our brand that somebody here knows what Warhammer is.
Yeah, for sure.
Good for us.
Because it ain't me.
Yeah.
This might be the first time I've ever talked about Warhammer 40K on a show called Axe of the Blood God.
I mean, it's an interesting universe. I wanted to play Rogue Trader for a while now, and I like the Dawn of War games a lot, but Yeah, that's a deep dark pit. I know exactly what army I would get if I got into it. I love the Tau. I think the Tau look really cool.
Oh, the tower, good. Yeah.
I would get deep into it. I would paint them all. I'd have all my little units, and it would be such a pit. I can't go there. I can't. I am.
Come
It is a
set
huge
me.
pit, and I respect you. There have been times where I've played something and went, "Oh, this is a problem." Like Backpack Battlers just recently, where it was apparent that I could sit there for hours with my brain fully shut down, watching the little people go boop, boop,
Mm.
boop, dead, boop, 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 dead. That's the same with Warhammer 40K. So you do have to be kind of careful. But somebody was mentioning the Dawn of War games in the chat. Dawn of War 2. I think I've talked about it in the past on the podcast. One of my favorite games.
It's good.
Kind of a hybrid of real-time strategy, but more squadron-based. So you have a little squadron of characters, and there's a heavy RPG aspect as well. And that, more than anything, was what kind of made me aware of the Warhammer 40K universe. It's a little goofy, of course, but by design, it's just a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. So
Warhammer,
anyway,
more like Borehammer.
LOL.
LOL.
Nadia, what have you been playing?
Like Eric, I kind of got back into FF14 on a daily basis. Just like, not on play like for a long time, and I'm trying to level up my scholar, and it's really funny because I keep running the vault, which is a very normal dungeon for very normal people. And there's like these characters that have like sickness must be purged and all these like weird voice lines that I just kind of use to terrify my cats. But beyond that, I've actually like for the Pantheon, I finally gotten into Nier Automata. Like it's something I have not really played thoroughly. I think what happened actually is I got into the game and then Persona 5 came out and then I was dead. But yeah, I got the game on the Switch and it runs really well on the Switch. And yeah, it's pretty freaking incredible. I mean, duh, but I'm happy with it.
Talk me through it. Like, what are you really enjoying about it?
I like the fact I can ride moose. That's just really crazy fun. I like how messed up the world is. Actually, one of the things that got me into it and made me say, okay, I have to be serious about this, is doing the Yoko Taro quest in FF14 and just seeing how devastating and great how well that was written. I said, okay, I'm probably gonna like Nier Automata. I gotta get to this. Yoko Taro doesn't give a shit. I respect that. So yeah, what I like is just I'm kind of still early in the game. I'm in the desert. I just did the mission with the weird Sephiroth naked guy, and I just like how everyone's saying cryptic shit, and it probably means something. I don't know. I'll find out, I suppose. But the music is just fantastic. The battle system's fun. I like using the pods from a distance. I love 9S. He's a good boy, and I like 2B. And yeah, it's just everything about it just fits together really well. It's a really atmospheric game. I'm just enjoying it.
The moment that hooked me in is when you go to sort of the sad amusement park for the first time with the little statue guys. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Very pretty. It goes from sort of I don't want to call it bland, but typical post-apocalyptic environment to something much more colorful and much more evocative. And that's when the vibes really do start to stand out with this one. It really does a great job of mixing genres and things like that. And it's a lot of fun. Eric, thoughts? Like, have you had a chance to revisit Nier Automata as part of the monthly game club?
So I'm not going to replay it for the game club because we're doing Nier for Normandy FM right now, and so we're actually getting close to the point where we're going to start playing Automata for Normandy. We're about to do Ending A of Replicant, and so we're like maybe a couple episodes away from jumping into Automata. So I am not playing it this month because I know that I'm going to play it for Normandy pretty soon, but Nier Automata is one of the few games that I've ever thought about getting a tattoo of. That is, cool. I want to get the Yorha symbol on one of my arms. I love Nier Automata. I think it is a brilliant game. I think it is so well made. I think it is one of my favorite stories in games, and I think definitely the way you move through that world, the way the endings get laid out, the way that stuff kind of happens in that game, but then also the message that you ultimately walk away with is really powerful and really poignant for me. I'm a sucker for any sort of like we hope, we believe in hope. We're up against these odds, these nihilistic situations in which we are going to hope beyond hope anyways. And so I really love Nier Automata for that, and all the stuff you get into with like Pascal and some of those characters. Really, really incredible. Yeah, I don't know what more I can really say about it. I think Nier Automata is a brilliant game. It was one of my favorites of a year that was absolutely stacked, and I cannot wait to talk about it for the Pantheon.
I should mention that on Monday we'll be running an interview with Yoko Taro and Stellar Blade director Kim Hyung-tae, which you should go check out. And they do talk quite a bit about the similarities, I should say, between Stellar Blade and Nier Automata, and the ways that Stellar Blade was kind of inspired by it, and creating 2B. It's very illuminating, so go check it out. For sure. My impression, by the way, of Yoko Taro is that he's very smart and maybe feels a little cynical about the state of the world, which I totally understand.
Oh, yeah, he's a major cynic.
But also, maybe the stories that he tells are actually quite emotional.
Very.
I think. And
incredible.
You can find... I think that one of the things that makes people fall into his games is the sort of authenticity of them. So many games just are very out in a cynical way to go out and create a universe, or they don't think too deeply about the themes that they're putting out into the world. But Yoko Taro has a philosophy. He has an outlook, and you can feel that in his games. And it's not an altogether nihilistic. Everybody says Yoko Taro is nihilistic. I think what you said, Eric, where it's finding hope in like the grimmest of circumstances, I do think that resonates with people, especially in a time like this. So
kind of reminds me of Kurt Vonnegut, really.
Yeah, it's like both Nier and Nier Automata, like the two Nier games, are like very involved with the idea of what it means to be human, what it means to perform humanity, to exist as a person, what personhood means, and that sort of stuff. And I really find that fascinating, the way that Yoko Taro explores that through gameplay, through the characters like Emile and Kaine and 2B and A2, like the ways in which those transplant so well to an interactive medium, and they don't feel like you're just kind of being told these things, like you're involved in all steps. It is a very interactive series. I love it. I think it's great.
Eric, we'll get to you, what you've been playing in just a second. I did want to talk very briefly, something that just popped into my mind, actually, and it's partly because Spire has said we need a Warhammer 40k factoid every episode, so we'll know if anybody asks about it. I have started This Week in GeckoCon again. So I started up Persona 3 Reload. I played through the first week. I'm on track. The game has now fast forwarded to Friday the 17th. The dates don't exactly align, but I figure that I'll play 1 week in the game for every week in real life. And maybe that's a little more, maybe that makes a little more sense than trying to do it on a daily basis and matching up the dates. But I've gone through this intro 500 times, so I'm not going to, so I'll spare you with it. It's enjoyable so far. It runs well on my Steam Deck. Pro tip, go and select the Proton hotfix branch, or else you're going to have like weird slowdowns and stuff. There's some kind of software issue going on there. But once you do that, it runs in 60 FPS on a Steam Deck OLED and looks terrific. Looks beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to playing more of this. I'll play more this week. And as we get deeper into it, maybe I'll talk more about it. And maybe I'll actually stick with it. Somebody on the Discord said that my aborted attempt to do This Week in GeckoCon last time inspired them to play through the entire game. They call it one of the most special kind of gaming experiences they had. So I'm really glad that I could inspire somebody with that, even if my own run didn't quite work out. But
Yeah.
we shall see this
Your
time.
failure there is success.
A successful failure.
Yes.
Now, Eric, what have you been playing?
I'll talk about two things. Briefly, I already mentioned that I'm playing Slay the Spire again because I just got the thirst after I saw the Slay the Spire 2 trailer. I always have brief moments where I just boot that up because it's just a thing to play that I know. It feels familiar.
Itching, yeah.
It feels comfortable. But I've been trying to actively pursue bumping up my ascension level on different characters because I'm still pretty low in the ascensions. Most of my characters are at like Ascension 3 or so thereabouts. I usually like play just a normal run when I feel like playing Slay the Spire, so now I'm actually trying to bump those levels up and get to higher ascension levels, and really just opening that game up even more. It feels like it's such a masterful game in how all of the card mechanics can interplay, all of the relics that you can pick up, all of the potions that you can get. There's so many resources in that game, but it becomes such an interesting number counting game of, okay, what do I have? What can I expend? Can I take some health hit now to do this stuff later? Or do I need to like expend a ton of resources to make sure that my health does not get hit? Because I know there's an elite coming up and I don't have a campfire very long after that. So I need to kind of like, and like when I get to a campfire, do I want to rest or do I want to smith? Do I want to do something that's going to like improve my run now or improve my run later? And I'm just always amazed by how well designed that game is. It's such a smart, fascinating deck builder that even when I go to other deck builders, I like Balatro a lot. I like Monster Train a lot, but I just don't find anything that hits quite the way that Slay the Spire hits. It's been really nice to remind myself of that. The other thing I want to talk about, which I did not put on the list because I wanted to surprise y'all, I have resumed playing Chrono Trigger. You can find the most recent episode on the YouTube, and so this last episode, this last stream, by the way, there will be another stream tomorrow morning, so 9 a.m. Pacific time here on twitch.tv/BloodGodPod. I'm going to try to do every Sunday because I want to finish Chrono Trigger. But last episode, we were kind of past the getting the party back together, so to speak, and we're in the world where we kind of just have side quests, right? Like different side quests to do. I could go finish the game if I wanted. I could go stick my head in the bucket and finish the game. But obviously, the character, the lamppost guy, I forgot his name, but I also don't want to spoil it. It's kind of telling me that there's a lot of stuff I can still do, so I'm out chasing that. And so I did the rainbow shell was the first thing I did.
That's a good one.
That was
That's
very
a really
fun.
good one.
It was a very interesting one. The boss fight was very funny. There's a really good clip of me just not understanding how water works at one point. It's very funny. And that was actually part of the next one I did. So rainbow shell took me about like hour and a half. I was like, okay, like we got a little bit of time left. We could maybe do like a short one. So it's like a short side quest I could do that's kind of like breezy, get it done now. And chat suggested the forest in the desert. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And so I went and did that. They kind of gave me like I'm asking them to give me like vague hints about how to start this stuff just because it's kind of nebulous and I want to make sure I do everything that I can in this run for posterity and also for my own benefit. And so they were like, oh, just go to the desert in this era and you'll kind of start to like piece it together from there. And I figured it out from there.
Yeah.
No one told me that at the end of that side quest is something completely different that just takes a radical turn. And all of a sudden I was experiencing trauma and having to deal with such like I failed the first time. And that is horrifying what happens when you failed it.
Lara.
I've said before, I knew some of the things that happen in Chrono Trigger going in. I knew kind of like who Frog was as a character roughly. I knew that Magus becomes part of the party or can become part of the party at some point. I knew about some of the stuff that happens with having to reform the party, so to speak. I knew some of that.
Yeah.
Other things I didn't know. I didn't know about Zeal as a whole. That all took me completely.
Neither did I. Zeal was such a surprise to me when I played it. It is. It really is.
And I did not know about Luca and the time portal. And I'm
Yeah.
glad I
Let's
didn't know about
go.
Luca and the time portal, because that is maybe the most shocking surprise I've ever seen in a game. Like, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic, but every time I play this game, I sit down and I'm like, okay, it's Chrono Trigger. Everybody loves this game. And I always, like, as somebody that never played it originally, I was like, man, people really have, like, rose tinted glasses for this thing. Like, I get it. Chrono Trigger came out. It's this big RPG. Ooh la la. And then I sit down and I play it. I'm like, oh, this game slaps. Oh, this game's really good. Like, better than a lot of stuff I play right now. Like, a lot of, like, it is one of those games where I feel as I'm playing it, I get why people love this game. I get why it was revolutionary at the time, why it still feels revolutionary, because it's so, it's a small game when you think about it. It's not a big
Very
world.
short.
It's short. The world's pretty contained as a whole, but it's so malleable. It's so like reactive to the things you do. All the stuff I'm doing in the side quest now are like, do something in the past to affect the future, do something in the future to find new information about the past, and like use all these things that link together and like take advantage of the fact that
Have you you've raised the Ocean Palace, right?
raised the Ocean Palace. Like
Well,
I've done the Ocean Palace segment, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I've done that, because you have to do that to kind of get to like the end game state, right?
Yeah, like the Black Omen is that like in
the stuff I still have yet to do. I've not done the Black Omen. I'm kind of saving that for last, I think. That seems very I should do that last. I have not. There's something in the future I need to do.
Yes, you do need to do that. That's the robot factory.
I think Ozzy is still around, and I gotta kill that asshole, because I fell in so many pits. I fell down so many holes.
Oh, that dickhead.
I think there's something about it's like a ghost or something. I fought a ghost named Cyrus, and I could not damage him, and I had to run away from him. I don't know what's up with that. I think that's the first thing I'm going to tackle tomorrow in the stream. I want to know what's up with that. And I think there's probably something I need to do in prehistory. I would imagine there's probably something for each character. And so
I remember that. That was fun.
I feel like I've done something for Marl. I feel like I've done something for Luca. I feel like I've probably the future stuff is very Robo, even though like the desert forest stuff was also very Robo. And that scene when Luca comes back and talks to Robo is like one of the sweetest things ever, especially if you fail it. If you fail it and then Luca talks to Robo, it is actually like the sweetest scene between those characters, and really just made me love those characters even more. I still feel like I need something to do for Frog. I don't know, probably medieval times for that. And maybe there's like a Magus thing I'm missing that might be linked to Ozzy, maybe because they come in cahoots or whatever. So I'm trying to keep myself very unspoiled, but I love this game. It's so good. It's amazing how good this game is.
The reason I ask about the Black Omen is because I think Queen Zeal is one of the most underrated villains in RPG. She's absolutely chilling. And if you go to the future, like I know you're not doing the Black Omen now, but you can go to the future and talk to her on the Black Omen when everything's conquered.
Hold on. You need to slow down here, Nadia. You're getting into some stuff I don't know if I want to know yet. I don't know if I want to know that
but
yet.
Calm down,
something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I see in the Twitch chat saying talk to the old man at the end of the time to get a hint. There's some stuff there that was like, he keeps saying like, oh, there's a friend in need and you need to hurry, and people were telling me like, that's not a time limited thing. That's like, you don't need to worry about like messing that up. Like, you're fine, don't worry about it. As long as you like
that is a mistranslation too.
Yeah. But it's making me wonder if this is going to carry over into FF6, because that's the next game I'm doing after Chrono Trigger. I'm going to finally play FF6, and I will confirm it, if only to make myself commit to this. After FF6, I've decided that Earthbound is going to be my next game.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now we're talking.
Classics.
I'm enjoying this as like an excuse to be like, I missed an entire like console's worth of RPGs. I never really had a Super Nintendo growing up. I never really played RPGs on the Super Nintendo. I have a lot of gaps when it comes to that console specifically, and that's like a very important part of RPG history, as I am obviously learning. So this is just going to kind of become a regular thing on the Twitch channel. So tune in, twitch.tv/bloodgodpod every Sunday, and maybe some other days when I find some extra time and want to do it. But like, I am loving this trip through history. It's incredible. And there's also now a playlist on the YouTube channel. If you don't catch them live, we have a playlist on the Blood God YouTube channel where you can go and watch all of the time trial recordings. They are all there. You can watch them in order. Yeah, it's a good time.
Go check it out. All right, that's it for the tavern. Nadia, take us home.
So are any of you watching X-Men 97?
Yeah.
Nope.
I'm not current. I haven't watched the most recent episode yet.
Okay, so I'm not going to spoil
The
anything
big
there.
one.
It's just, I want to say, I remember when X-Men first aired, and I had a rivalry going with not really a friend of mine, just one of those kids who talks shit, sits behind you in class, you know the type. This was like a real Sega Nintendo thing. I was so into Batman, the animated series, and he was so into X-Men, and we always had these fights over which was better, and of course the answer is Batman, the animated series. Like, I was never a big fan of the original X-Men cartoon. I found it kind of loud, very fast-paced.
It's kind of loud.
It is extremely loud. Like, I mean, that's cool, don't get me wrong, but like, it's...
And then with the names like flashing across the screen.
Cyclops.
Very Cyclops. Cyclops sucks. But
no, I love Cyclops. He's such a Boy Scout. Like,
he's so... I like if I'm gonna have a Boy Scout character, I like Superman. He has like a sort of gentleness around him. Cyclops just bitches all the time. My eyes. Oh no, I looked at the sun. Wait, if he looked at the sun, he destroyed the sun.
I looked at the eclipse.
I looked at the eclipse. Now look what happened.
Back.
Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Charles. Man, like, the design for what's his name, Magneto in that show, I said he looks like Emmett Selk with massive dick-sucking lips.
Magneto so hot in that
They
series.
so
It's upsetting.
did.
He is... Look, Magneto's always been hot, all right? Like,
yeah.
Let's be honest with ourselves here, but he is alarmingly hot in this new series.
I'm okay with that. But my friend and I, going back to him for a second, like, I used to make fun of him because, you know how Cyclops in the new show is always doing that, you know, of course, not surrender mutant bit. That was like the commercial, and I remember that vividly when it first aired, like on Fox Kids. And I would say to my friend, "That is so stupid. How can you defend a show that has this stupid moment?" And then, of course, the new cartoon's like, "Of course not." And I don't know why you'd bring that joke back. I thought it was stupid to begin with, but yeah, the answer is Batman was better. Unfortunately, I think WB took the...
I mean, only one show has the classic episode Tiger Tiger.
Is that the one that turned you into a furry?
Yes. Turn Catwoman into a furry.
I hope it doesn't awaken anything in me.
There are two wolves inside me. One is a furry, and the other plays Warhammer 40k now.
There were multiple furry episodes in Batman the Animated Series.
Really
There's also
were.
the steroids episode where the guy turns into the werewolf.
He was taking werewolf estrogen. That was hardcore.
And there's the one episode, and there are multiple episodes with the Man-Bat.
Man-Bat was so cool. I love Man-Bat.
Including Lady Bat.
There was Lady Bat.
These really detailed transformations. Somebody was acting something out on Batman the Animated Series.
There was some really messed up episode, yeah.
I will say I watched both avidly back in the day. I loved Batman the Animated Series. If you want to talk about awakening something the episode where Poison Ivy and Harley basically go full Thelma and Louise.
I can't believe they got away with that in the 90s. That was pretty... I think my dad was watching that with me and he was like,
Very much awakening things in me. That was the first time I was really feeling feelings, I think, when I watched that episode.
Girls can kiss.
That was like a
those girls really like each other a lot.
Those girls seem like good friends.
That
I know.
wound up shaping like those characters for like the foreseeable
very
future.
much so.
Like, Ivy and Harley is now like basically canon in Batman at this
It's a
point.
canon. It's not even a ship anymore. It's
And
just
that
a
show is
thing.
hilarious.
Oh,
I
that
really
show is
wish, like,
so
it's the only
good.
thing from DC I really like these days. It's Bane. Like, I've never seen the Batman movie he came from, but I can't because now he's like, I'm Bane. Everyone come to my dinner
I
party,
ordered
and
the beef. You
I
ordered
ordered
the
the
chicken. Aw.
It's so perfect. Like DC, I think they're the best at just taking the piss out of themselves. Like they just do. Like Teen Titans is always consistently funny. But yeah, that's X-Men '97 is not bad. I find the
It's
animation
so
really
good.
bad. Someone said it looks like Archer,
The
and it really
animation's
does.
bad.
Yeah,
It's
like
it's
it's not
trying
great.
to be the original in a lot of ways. I think sometimes it looks strange, other times it looks good. I think the was it
I've seen some
Motendo or
great
something?
gifs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the one where Jubilee and the
Yes.
Sunspot character are in the video game. Like there's some great like Jubilee animation in that. And I
yeah.
love that because Jubilee rules and should get like way more spotlight. But yeah, I really really like this continuation of the series. I think it feels just nostalgic, but not like overly attached to its roots. It feels like a genuine continuation rather than like just being like, oh, remember how good the X-Men used to be? No, it feels like
Yeah.
this is how good the X-Men are.
I found it's like I said, I'm not the hugest fan of the animated series, but like I found like the first couple episodes were just kind of like whatever, but it's gotten a lot better since, and I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
invested now.
Mm-hmm.
And Wolverine rules. I was so mad when the Pride of the X-Men, they debuted that and they made Wolverine Australian. I'm like, come on.
We
He's
get
all we
one
have.
Canadian superhero.
Come on. He's
Our
so
short
angry.
king.
He's a real short king.
He's a short
You don't
king.
get angry Canadian characters. Come on. Let me have this.
And on that note, that's it for another episode of Axe the Blood God. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, hey, why don't you support us on Patreon? Patreon.com/bloodgodpod, which enables us to keep doing this. You can get access to the show ad-free for just $1 a month, or join our Discord, which is amazing. We have a lot of bonus content. We're doing, if you enjoyed our Near Automata talk, well, hey, we're going to be doing a Painting of the Blood God episode for that in early May. The monthly game club is ongoing right now. We are now heading into the Acts of the Blood God post show with the Stars of Destiny. As a reminder, we're here every single Saturday around 9:15 a.m. Pacific to stream the episodes. So if you want to catch us live, go check us out at twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. All right, we're heading out. We'll be back next week to talk more about the genre that we love. But until then, for Nadia, Eric, myself, thanks for listening. Happy adventuring.